saw blade was dull, or if this wood was just that hard. Well, we turned some. I had a couple of small pieces that were cross thread, or excuse me, not cross thread, it's cross grain. And I thought, well, it's unusual, but we'll try it. And I turned a pin, cross grain. Ouch! Pinched a nerve in my thumb. Anyway, came to realize it was really hard. Had a lot of people take some wild guesses as to what it might be. I don't know why that's, well, I guess it's because I got it started a little crooked. Somebody finally said African walnut. They were close. African walnut, not African, but South American walnut, which is Ipe. It's down, no wonder it's tight already. One of these days, we'll take this banjo apart and fix it properly. I'm going to do is turn a small recess in the bottom of here. I'm going to go ahead and start smoothing this out. Get a recess in here so that I can turn it around. Here's 1845 RPMs. Let's see how this works. This is quite hard, this wood is. Wow. It's hard when we first found it. It is hard now. I've had it for a number of years. I've been in this shop, in this house, in this shop for 7 years, and I brought it with me from where we were before. So I know it's at least that old. Is kind of the wood in vogue for doing decks right now. If you've got plenty of money, you use it on a deck because it is so weather resistant. It's just so dense and so hard. There's not a lot that the weather can do with it. So people are using it. It's, as you can see, it's quite beautiful. I'll make a couple of marks here. I know roughly where my center is, and so I know about where my recess needs to be. Put it right there. I'll mark it so that I can turn it out. There's my mark. parting tool. Sorry to say parting gouge. Doesn't have to be real deep. It's got to be deep enough that those jaws get inside of the wood and get a good grip. Sharpened, or well, I know that wood is super hard. I'm going to use my small skew to make that kind of a dovetail on the inside of that recess. Clean it up. Want a nice smooth wall. I want it to end. I want that wall to end with just a little bit of a dovetail. Nice smooth across my bottom. Go ahead and put my decorative rings in while I'm here. Use 3 simple rings just to give me some lines to do my maker's mark in after a while. Okay, I've got to decide at this point, am I going to make this a round bowl or am I going to make this a bowl with some square edges? If I want some square edges, I still want this to come up maybe halfway between this top edge and this edge here. Well, move the tool rest, work on the side just a little more. We'll get started. I'm bringing the sides around, or the bottom around, and we'll decide here in just a couple of minutes if we're going to leave the top edge square or not. Turn it a time or two just to make sure everything's clear. That cut was a lot smoother. That's because I picked up a sharper gouge. Forgot I had one that was still dull and one that was still sharp. Okay, we did bring that up about a quarter of the way. Made these a lot wider. I like the way it's turning. Let's go ahead and make it. Let's go ahead and make it round, and then we'll come back and put a foot on it. Move the tool rest a little closer. Packing this with a push cut. with here. Yeah. it's the right decision. We're going to stay with this round. You can always tell when I get to this flat section, that's where it goes to bumping. I'm getting nice, it's a pretty smooth cut until I get there, and then it starts jumping around. I'm getting ridges in these turn spots, but they're still ridges. And that's all caused by that flat section there. Bring this tool rest on around where it's, get rid of the square section, then I'll come back and blend it into the lower section, create a foot as well. I think let's make this a bit of a calabash. It won't be real tall, but it'll be, what that means is not only is it going to be round, but it's going to close in on itself. And it may not be a true, still got just a little bit of square there. Not been on a rampage or anything, but I have been noticing an awful lot of turners who are doing this kind of a thing. They get to the apex of their turn and they keep going all the way to the end. And I was doing that while I was roughing, but I'm not roughing anymore. I want to stay with the grain to get as nice a cut as I can. Which means you go from the outside of the piece, you go from toward the center up to the apex, and that is actually going downhill. Okay, gotta switch hands so that I can. Very light shear cut there. I'm bleeding onto the place where it's great. There we go. Using that lower wing and scraping, but I've got it on a shear angle. Got it quite smooth. And same thing for this lower section. Lump right there that I need to get rid of. Place right here on the bottom that I want to square away, but that's, I said I was going to make this a calabash. Earlier I said something about a foot right here at the bottom. Calabash does not actually have a foot. Excuse me. I don't think I want to put a foot on this. I am going to take this ridge off of this bottom I want this to kind of curve itself into when people see it from the side, they should not be able to see or conceive of a foot. Make sure this is going in, not, I don't even want it flat on the bottom. I want it to be an inward slope toward the center. I think that's what I've got. I'll double check it here. Very small adjustments, places where I'm feeling just a touch of a ridge. Okay, what I just did was I had already blown the sawdust off of there, the sanding dust off. Gave it a good wipe down with some denatured alcohol. We'll turn it on and let that just circulate the air just a little bit, just back and forward before I forget it. Here's my sanding sealer. This is a Cellular sanding sealer, lacquer sanding sealer. Any brand will work. Getting hard to find. Not exactly sure why, other than some of the California stuff, and it's just California just kind of forces the way for the rest of the country, and so it's the only thing I can figure. Let me put the sanding sealer on. After I get the first coat on, I'm going to go ahead and pull the chuck and all off of the lathe. Man, even just the sanding sealer, I've got chatoyance like crazy on there. Chatoyance, that flash right there, right there. It's on the end grain, or beside the end grain. It's on the end grain on this piece. Beautiful. It seems to be taking the sanding sealer very evenly. Happy about that. Okay, let me set that aside. I'm going to put some more on it, but while that first coat is drying, I'm going to pull this off here. I'm going to go ahead and put my maker's mark on here. Someone asked earlier today in the chat area about using the reverse. I do use the reverse primarily to sand. It's always after I've turned, so it's on there good and tight. I can't just pull it off. I have to use there we go. I have to use my key and put it in there and kind of bang it just a little bit to loosen it up. So it's on there good and tight, and I'm just sanding. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on, so I'm not too worried about it backing off, but all the time I'm kind of watching, listening. You can hear, as soon as it comes loose, I can hear it. So that's what I do. You should use a set screw. Always use a set screw. This is a Nova chuck, and it's got a Nova insert in it, and right there is where the grub screw goes in. And that grub screw fits right in this little groove in the very back end of the spindle. So there's a place just for it. I rarely use it. If I'm going to turn in reverse, then I will use it sometimes. Sometimes if I've had the chuck on there a long time without taking it off, I will go ahead and turn, but use very, very light cuts. Okay, let me put my maker's mark in. It's going to make a little bit of noise. Okay, what I engraved into there was wood spun round, the month and year, so 11/21, and the flavor of wood. Ipe, IPE. Hit that with just a little bit of 320, just to knock off the fuzzy bits that have developed. Hit it with some air. We can put it back on the lathe. That's it. I'll spin that last little bit just to give it a good seat. It's ready. That sanding sealer is dry. I'm gonna give it another shake. There seems to have been a huge question lately about whether to dilute or not to dilute. This is cellulose sanding sealer, lacquer sanding sealer. I dilute mine 50-50. Dilute it with lacquer thinner. You can use acetone. That's the second best. Did hear someone say that they tried to dilute with alcohol, denatured alcohol, and that they were having troubles. It wasn't that the material was separating so bad, but they were having trouble later on down the road with layers, with their lacquer later on. And the only thing that I could contribute it to, after we talked about it several times, the piece that was being worked on was sanded back several times. The only thing we could come up with was that this fellow was using denatured alcohol as his thinner, and so denatured alcohol is not a thinner for lacquer. So that's the only thing we could come up with. If you're going to use lacquer products, use lacquer thinner. You run out of lacquer thinner, your substitute is acetone. Okay, let's let this dry. We'll let it run and dry. Again, that's at 700. Now, it's not on there so thick that it's slinging off. That won't take but just a moment to dry. Then we're going to come back with the Axe products. We're going to use Axe abrasive paste on top of this sanding sealer. It's one reason I want to put 2 coats on it. If I let this dry and I find that it has some dry spots on the wood, I will, instead of going ahead with the abrasive paste, I'll use some more sanding sealer on it. It's getting there, it's almost dry. Slightly tacky. Something else, don't grab it to feel if it's still wet. Use the back of your hand. You're much less likely to put prints on or to even streak the material. What do we got here? That looks pretty good. Does not look quite dry though. Let's let it spin for just another minute. Too often we rush this process. We'll put something on and then we'll go to the next step without allowing it to dry. I think we've done that with sanding sealer way too much. See it on YouTube, and if it's something that's pre-recorded, they tend to rush the process. And then if it's not pre-recorded, if it's live, or if it's live, then they feel like they need to rush the process because they don't want to take up everybody's day. Even in my pre-recordings, they tend to be an hour-ish. So, there's time. There's plenty of time. Okay, that looks a lot better. Yeah, give it a little white. That was good. Held that up to my face shield. Still got my face shield on. All right, let's put some of this wonderful abrasive paste on here. You want to put enough on to get a good coverage. Don't want to be crazy with it. It doesn't need to look like you put a plaster on it or anything like that. You want this on there, plenty of it on there so that the abrasive paste can do the work. Now this is something that does not need to dry before you go to buffing. In fact, we're not going to buff really. I am going to turn my speed down. Let's go to 400. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on, just very light pressure. Because all I'm doing right now is I'm rubbing it in. I'm allowing that abrasive to do its job. There have been many products on the market over the years. Several years ago when I was doing primarily pens, I started using Triple E Ultra Shiny, EEE Ultra Shiny. Came out of Australia. Probably the original abrasive paste, if not the original. It's one of the early ones. Does a fine job. Since then, others have been developed. One in England, Yorkshire grit. And if you watch YouTube, you'll see a lot of Yorkshire grit being used. Followed up by Hampshire Sheen, which is a wax. Here in the United States, people have played around and developed the same kind of stuff. That's what has happened here. That's Axe. Exactly what Axe is. They have played around with the formula. They figured it out, or figured out one that they like. And they sell it. You can only buy it on their website, axe.com. I believe is the website. ACKS, maybe it's ACKS abrasive.com. I need to look that up so I can tell you exactly. But anyway, they have made their own. I'm already feeling that abrasive breaking down. We'll speed it up back to 700. I'm just using the same section of my paper towel. I hadn't turned it at all. Just going to keep using that section down here in my recess. At some point, probably before I turn it around, once I take it off the chuck and get ready to turn it around, I'll probably take one of my dental picks and clean it out of those 3 grooves that I put on there. I'm not sure what the original grit rating is on this abrasive paste. Maybe close to 1,000. But then it takes it right on up. Honestly, I'm not feeling, there probably is just a little touch of grit still in there. I'm not feeling it. Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna speed it up. There is 1,000 right there. I'm gonna turn my paper towel inside out. If we can start buffing that off. The abrasive paste has some wax in it. It also has the Triple E abrasive. I'm rubbing it just a little hard, just a little bit more pressure. Doing a fine job of taking that, pulling that right off of there. I'm seeing more and more shine show up on this wood. This Ipe should shine up extremely well. All right. Okay, 1,400 RPMs. Like I told you a while ago, I've got a sanding video out. Part of the intention was so that people could watch that if they want to know my sanding process, and I could eliminate that from my regular videos. It won't be too long. I'm going to do at least one, if not a series of sanding videos, not sanding videos, of finishing videos. So I can cut out the finishing process, whether it's this process or anything else. I'd like to do when I'm doing an oil finish. I've got my way of doing it. I've recently heard some other people who are using the same process or talked about using the same process. Like they know what it is, but they don't necessarily use it. It's a process that I talked to some folks years ago. Ron Kent was one of them. His was more of a Danish Oil saturation process. But as he and I talked, we talked about this oil process as well. Both oil, Danish Oil. Danish Oil is an oil. It just has some urethane in it as well, so it builds a little quicker. I was extremely happy to, over the years and even recently, to understand who it was who had given me information years ago, who had helped me in my processes of getting started. Still not saying that I'm no special person. I'm just like anybody else. I'm like you or anybody else. I'm still learning, still in this process, trying to understand it all so that I can do the best job possible. Just reversing this. I want to get this abrasive paste from the other side, the other direction, just to make sure I'm getting it all off. Still getting just a touch of residue. That residue may be coming out of that recess. I've not spent nearly as much time on the recess as I have the side of this bulb, the bottom and the side of this bulb. Not a whole lot of the bottom, but there is some. There we go. There's some space in this recess. I'm not hit as much, and it's shining already. The bottom is shining like new money now. I'll have to get turn my paper towel over one more time. I think we're there. We are still getting just a touch of residue. Here you see it. I apply the abrasive paste, work it in at some lower speeds, speed it up as the grit wears out. And when I start speeding it up and flipping my towel, I'm trying to buff it off. I want it to come off clean. I don't want anything left on my paper towel. Which then brings us to the wax process. This is the polishing, restoring and polishing wax. Some people have begun experimenting by they're taking and wiping off the oils and waxes from the abrasive paste with some denatured alcohol, and they're putting some finishes on there, various finishes that they're experimenting with, or finishes that they like. Any of those will work. It could be lacquer, it could be polyurethane, it could be, let's see, somebody's using tried and true. I don't know. Use any sort of shellac will work. That's one coat. I may very well come back and put some more on. Still at 1400. Never have slowed it down. In fact, I'm still using the same area of my paper towel here. But anyway, they're doing all, their other finish, and they're coming back and doing another coat of the abrasive paste and then the wax. And oh my goodness, they're getting some tremendous results. So I have been thinking about it, and there's several finishes that I really like. I think over the 20 years or so, been longer than that, 25 years maybe, of turning and trying different finishes. I think the one that I liked the best was probably not my first finish, not my first go-to finish, but one of the early ones, Danish Oil. You get that pre-made. Several companies make a Danish Oil type of finish, or you can make your own. One of my mentors back in the early days was Russ Fairfield. And he said, his thing was not, don't go make or don't go buy Danish Oil. He said, make your own Danish Oil. He said, go get you a quart or a gallon of spar urethane. And he had a particular brand that he particularly liked. He said, get you a container of spar urethane, a container of tongue oil, and he was very specific, it needed to be tongue oil. It could be made with boiled linseed oil as well, but he particularly liked tongue oil. The research had shown that at that time, and I think it still shows, tongue oil is a little bit harder drying oil than boiled linseed oil is. So he wanted spar urethane, which is an outdoor polyurethane product, tongue oil, and odorless mineral spirits. He said, no, if you particularly like the smell of mineral spirits, just go buy the regular stuff. It's a little bit cheaper. He said he couldn't stand the smell of mineral spirits, and so he would spend the extra, whatever it was, 50 cents or $1, whatever, per gallon of odorless mineral spirits. But you mix those three products equal parts, and you have a tongue oil finish that is very, very good. I've used it. I've made my own. I can't imagine anything being better. Now, this wax is not teetotally cured yet, but I've been applying just a little bit of pressure, and it already feels, under the paper towel, it feels silky smooth. I've touched it a time or two, and yes, it's still pretty much silky smooth. And look at that chatoyance. Bam! Kaboom! There it is. Good looking stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not cured just yet. Oh. Right, paper towel here. I'll threw it down in my discard pile. And what will happen here, I'll go ahead and take this off and turn the inside of it out, and it'll all have to be polished again. Let's see what we can do about turning the inside of this bowl out. That's 1,840 RPM. Well, and as usual, I am just a little bit low. See if that's any better. That may be too high now. Yep, too high. Something in between the two. That should do it. Clean this out of the center here. Make another pass. back there and get my carbide. I'll use my small round carbide to do this. Turn that on. Yeah, the thickness comes almost all the way to the top. In fact, what I want to do is turn this back around the center. I'll get my depth gauge out just to double check. I think I know about where I am, but I want to be sure. You may or may not have seen a video the other day. I had the wrong size for this particular Noah. I had the wrong size for my other check. My wrong spacer. This is the spacer. That was the only spacer I had. I still got the best part of an inch. I got 3/4 of an inch there. So I'm in great shape as far as the depth goes. We may very well do that again. Alright. Right now I'm concentrating on the walls. I want to get my walls to this point. I want to get them thin all the way down. Back up to speed using my round carbide cutter. This is a small easy wood tool following yeah, it's a CI3. It's the miniature finisher is what this is. It's really dark outside. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Still not even, but better than it was. Somebody said to me, aren't you really using isn't it a scraper? Yes, it is a scraper. It's a carbide scraper, so it's not exactly the same thing. We're good about halfway down now. Excuse me. I knew that sneeze was coming. Okay. Let's get back to it here. Stay at it. Just a touch low for this carbide tool wants to cut on center, and I'm not quite on center. Yeah, just a, where am I? Yeah, I'm pretty close. Okay, where am I as far as golly, I've got a lot of depth. There's still a good bit on the bottom of this bowl that needs to come out.
it out good. You can see that I'm moving a good bit of wood. We're getting close. We're getting close. There's a couple of ridges here toward the top I want to get rid of. Clean that bottom out across there. My ridges are going up. Ridges are gone. Okay, I just need to get this clean across the bottom. Then we're going to be able to call it good. Shaving filled up awfully quick in here. Okay, center is still just a touch high. There's a ridge out toward the outer portion. Much better in the center. Feeling some ridges there that didn't realize were there. Still high in the middle. Alright, let's clean out the bottom just a little bit more. Back to my bowl gouge. There's just a little bit of an inward slope. Okay. Sometimes that's all it takes, is that little tiny adjustment, like giving that rim an inward slope, to make it something that, you know, make it an easy sold piece. Most people who are selling their work are selling it in locations where there is no salesperson to actually sell it. And so the piece almost has to sell itself. So it's the attention to detail. Nah, you don't sand at 1800 RPMs. Let's get it closer to 700 RPM. I meant to tell you a while ago, if you're not using abrasive paste, if you're sanding up to, well, if you're sanding past 240, 320, especially if you're dry sanding that high, any higher than 320, let me suggest that you do the abrasive paste. All this dust that is coming off, that dust, when you use the abrasive paste, the paste itself captures all that dust, and you don't have that problem. Man, that feels smooth. And I'm not putting any finish, no wax, nothing. Looks good. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this, straighten this headstock back around. I'm going to relocate the camera so that I can hook the power cord up to it. I'm going to check the time as well. I've got some things coming up that need to be taken care of. One, my wife getting off work, and we'll have to get some supper. But also, my son has a jazz band concert. His college jazz band is having a concert tonight that I want to see. And so I'm going to rearrange, see what time it is, and I'll bring you back when we start the very next step. All right, let's carry on. We have sanded all the way to 320 on the inside. We have blown the dust out of the inside of there. Now it's time to clean all that out. We've blown it out so that the dust is not sitting on the surface any longer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash that surface off. Use a bit of denatured alcohol. Clean it. You can see right there, maybe not, maybe too much light, maybe too reflective off that wipe. There's a lot of dust on the paper towel. So I'm going to actually turn it inside out, come back around here, wipe it down again. And again, I'm getting more dust. That's why I want to blow it, is because I don't want to drive that dust down into the pores of that wood. It's still set at 700. I'm going to turn it on, let the air cause that to dry. That alcohol dries very, very quickly. It's about dry now. That's finishing up. Got my sanding sealer here. It is shaking up. Sanding sealer. A nice liberal coat of sanding sealer. As I said before, same stuff I did before. It's a 50-50 mixture of lacquer sanding sealer and lacquer thinner. Give that a minute to dry. You've got to push the on button if you want it to run. Pushing the off button does not make it run. Never has, never will. Take my paper towel, I'm going to flip it inside out. Still wet, but it's nice and clean. I just want to kind of burnish a little more on and in to that surface. That's going to be the end of that. Let that dry. All right. Because this chuck is a Tommy bar chuck, I know that this back ring, if I bring it toward me, tightens it onto a tenon, makes it smaller. No, it doesn't. It loosens, it opens it. So I need to push it away from me so that it closes these against the, it's on a recess back here, so I want to push. Easy as that. And there is the Ipe bowl. Hope you've enjoyed this. This was an impromptu kind of thing. It wasn't well planned out, but I wanted to test out that microphone. And I know there's one section where the microphone. There's an Ipe bowl. This is Doug. I'm at the shop of Wood Spun Round. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, if you go down and click the like button, maybe you hated it, click the dislike button. That's okay too. It helps me to learn, helps me to make a better video the next time. If you'll go down, especially if you dislike, if you will go down and tell me why. Go in the comments, give me just a one statement reason why you disliked it. Your sound went out, your sound wasn't good, I don't like the wood, I don't like your voice, whatever the reason is, let me know and I'll see what I can do about making a better video so that you can enjoy it more. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and hit that like button. How you like that chatoyance, huh? Huh? Ding, 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 ding. Flash, there it is. I wish I had a turntable, a little electric turntable. I'm going to rig one up. That is just beautiful right there. And there again, there's my maker's mark on the bottom. I think you can just make it out. Wood Spun Round, Ipe 1121. Anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. You've got about another week or so. You've got until the 19th to subscribe and go find the giveaway, the 500 subscriber giveaway video. And in that video, you'll see how it is that you need to register to be a part of you need to register so you'll be in the drawing for the 500 subscriber giveaway. That's a walnut bowl, I believe it's 11¼ inch walnut bowl. American black walnut that I harvested, Breckenridge County, Kentucky. Beautiful piece of wood. I think it came out to be a beautiful bowl. Would love to have you in that drawing. I also wanted to invite you to join us on Wednesday nights. We have an international wood turning club that meets on Wednesday nights. It's a Zoom meeting, and you are cordially invited to get into the meeting. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't need a password. You don't need a code. All you need to do is go to worldwidewoodturners.org, O-R-G. Go to that website. You go down the page just a little way, and you'll see a button. It'll say click to go to meeting. You click on that button somewhere around 7 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday night, and it'll take you to a Zoom meeting. And one of the moderators will be glad to let you in. We don't ask any questions. We don't ask you to fill out any forms. There's no secret handshake. There's no fees, no fines, no nothing. If you want to be a part of it, you are welcome. We want you to come and be a part with us. Share as much as you want to share. Don't share anything you don't want to share. That's fine. Eddie Castlin is the moderator most every week, unless something tragic happens, like happened a little while back when the hurricane came through and knocked him off the air for a couple of weeks, and that was okay. We went right on. We had a great time. It's always a blast when Eddie's there, but he doesn't have to be there. We will still have our meeting. Somebody will run that meeting. Maybe a little shorter than usual, but that's okay. Hey, that's the other thing. If you can't come at 7 o'clock, you can get there at 8 or 8:30. That's fine. You come on. We'd love to have you even late. We go till about 10 o'clock, and we shut it down at 10. That doesn't mean you have to stay until 10. No matter what time you come in, if you need to leave, you feel free to leave. Well, this is Doug. Hope you've enjoyed it. This nice little Ipe bowl. This is hard wood, but as you saw, it turns beautifully. It finishes fantastically. That has got wax on it, is all it's got, and it's not even finished. It'll have a little more wax put on it, a little more shine put on it. I've enjoyed turning it. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. This is Doug at Wood Spun Round. Until we get to see each other once again, hope you're able to spin them round. Bye-bye.